What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I have some new news concerning Jermell Charlo, Brian Castano. You know, this fight here was far better than the first fight for a lot of reasons. And I think it was solely based on Jermell Charlo. And Jermell Charlo has showed me in his last two losses, because even though it was labeled a draw, a lot of people thought he lost that fight. I know he was happy that he received the draw, but he's learned from his last draws or losses that he can come back and make adjustments, and that's exactly what he did. Okay, Jermell Charlo fought in between Brian Castano's punches. He used his leverage, he used his reach, and he countered, okay? And basically, Brian Castano's a pressure fighter. And what I've noticed about Brian, when he throws 1, 2, 3, 4 punch combinations, he brings his hands down because he likes to admire his work. A lot of fighters do that, okay? They like to throw 4 or 5 punches to see what type of effect they had on their fighters because of the punches that they've thrown or landed, okay? And when you do that, you leave yourself open, wide open for a counter. And the left hook for Jermell Charlo was there all night long, okay? Now, don't get me wrong, Brian Castano, he had some luck in this particular fight because it was going to be the type of fighter based on the type of fighters these guys are, based on their styles. And Brian Castano is a pressure fighter, and he pressured himself all the way to the end, okay? Round 10 was the end, okay? When he got caught with that left hook, it was like collapse. It was like, you know what? I've had enough. I'm going to collapse. And then Jermell Charlo had his way with him. He had his way with Brian Castano. I predicted that Jermell Charlo would stop Brian Castano in this fight because he had the tools to hurt him before. See, if we flash back in the first fight, Jermell Charlo hurt Brian Castano, but Brian Castano hurt Jermell Charlo back in return, okay? But I think the type of damage both fighters done was different for 2 different reasons. One, Brian Castano was the accumulation of the punches that he was getting caught with, okay? That's how he hurt Jermell Charlo. Jermell Charlo naturally has the punching power to hurt Brian Castano with one solid punch, one single shot, okay? So that's the difference. And I said to myself, I'm like, okay, if Jermell can hit him and catch him with the right shot, he can get Brian out of there because he knows he can hurt Brian Castano. He just needs to make adjustments on how to land the shots to get him out of there. And he did exactly that in this particular fight. You know, the hooks was there. He was catching Brian Castano with those hooks inside. Brian Castano was throwing these little short punches. He has short arms, people. Okay, so we have to keep that in mind. But I think Jermell Charlo showed one thing that I always said about the Charlos, both of those guys. They are extremely durable and tough. Okay? Jermell Charlo, those are some tough cats. I mean, really tough cats. They can take punches that you've seen. Jermell Charlo can take a punch. Jermall Charlo can take a punch. They're very durable. They are not weak-chinned men. Okay? They might be high-strung and completely unpredictable at times with their temper, but they can take a punch and they can give a punch too. So that's the thing that makes a Charlo so dangerous, because if you want to go head to head with a Charlo and you can catch him, he can take your punches, but can you take theirs? And I think this was a classic case of that, because Brian Castano was coming. He was coming because he was banking on the idea of what happened the first fight. But it wasn't him, it was Jermell. Again, Jermell made the adjustments. He fought in between the punches. He punched in between those smaller or those shorter arms of Castano, okay, making it difficult for Castano to keep getting off like he was, okay, because what he did, he made Brian Castano pay for dropping them damn arms looking at his work, you know, and then eventually that's exactly what happened, okay? He got caught with one too many. And, you know, don't get me wrong, Brian Castano landed some shots or whatnot, but the shots or the heavier blows always came from Jermell Charlo. Okay, and Jermell Charlo, just like the Harrison fight, he was ready and he rose to the occasion and he got the job done. He stopped, matter of fact, he stopped Harrison in the 11th. He stopped Brian Castano in 10. Okay, so it was an action-packed night of fighting, and I take my hat off to Jermell Charlo. He now becomes the undisputed super welterweight champion of the world. You guys tell me what you think of Jermell Charlo stopping Brian Castano in round 10. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been counterpunching. Peace.